All right, everybody, welcome to our second workshop of the year for Grow Morristown, Tennessee's backyard gardening program. In this workshop, we are going to cover planting your garden. We're going to talk about preparing for planting, what you'll need, how to plant, seeds and plants, fertilizer tips, preventing weeds with mulch, talk a little bit about water and irrigation, and how to set up trellises. When it comes to site preparation, a lot of you guys, like at this point last year, we were kind of still chipping away at some of this, and for the most part, we're past this already. All right, but you can't tell when it's too wet. It will either turn to mud, or compaction is a big problem. You want your soil to be kind of fluffy. You do want to create raised beds by digging out your pathways, establish where you're going to walk, and just don't ever walk on your planting areas. Again, compaction, right? Helps with drainage by keeping the compaction low. You're going to need seeds or plants, obviously, fertilizer, some hand tools, and you're going to need water. Now, when you're planting seeds, larger seeds like peas, beans, corn, squash, beets, you want to soak in water. It's kind of like that always seemed funny to me, is that if you're going to cook beans, you got to soak them, right? Well, if you're going to plant beans, you got to soak them too. You want to read your seed packs for spacing and seed depth instructions. Scratch a trench or a hole approximately that seed depth, and then put your seed in and cover it up. A rule of thumb, if the seed pack doesn't tell you, if you notice the seed packs, it always kind of follows a general rule, is that the seed planting depth is about 2 to 4 times the length of the seed. Look at a pumpkin seed, and then look at the packet when it comes out, and you'll see what I'm talking about. All right, you want to put fertilizer in when you plant. I will talk more about this later, but don't fertilize your whole garden, because you're fertilizing weeds and everything too, and you're better off fertilizing right where you're going to plant. Space, if you have a long row of plants or seeds that are going in, like say every 3 inches or even every 6 inches, it can be better to scratch a trench in.
Thought I had the money sitting right there.
Let me get anybody who's not muted. Let's mute. I think I can mute everybody, but
God damn it, I told you I was fucking in the middle of something.
hang on. Let's everybody mute. How do I mute everybody? I don't. If you're not muted, please mute. All right, back to it. Let's see.
If you go down to the bottom where it says participants, you should be able to mute us all there.
Yeah, but all my stuff is like wide open because of the presentation. It's like it doesn't have what I'm used to seeing, because now I'm the presenter instead of. I think I can edit this out like Conan O'Brien does or something. All right. We're gonna edit that out. We all have bad days. All right, let's see. Now, all right. So if you're, let's cut. I'm gonna edit that out. All right. If you're planting a bunch of seeds that are planted every 2-3 inches, 3 or 4 inches, I don't see anyone here who's unmuted. That's the problem. Who is it?
Yeah, I'm here. I can hear you. I can see you.
Right, but can you mute?
Can I mute? Hold on.
Yeah, just mute. Awesome. All right. Back to it. Take 3. All right. If you are planting a bunch of seeds that are planted every 2 to 3 inches, every 4 to 5 inches or whatever, you're probably better off scratching a trench in the ground and putting your seeds along that row and then covering up, you know, whatever the appropriate depth of soil on top of that is. Sometimes I don't even scratch a trench. I'll just lay my seeds down, like I'll prepare my bed, lay the seeds down, and then put soil, you know, or some soil that I've prepared, or potting soil or whatever, on top of it, the appropriate depth. You know, you can go up just as easy as you can go down. So sometimes you can do that. Then you want to water every 3 days until they sprout. Gradually, you'll reduce the watering until you're down to watering 2 or 3 times a week. When you see a seed packet or you're reading a table, basic information here is what you're looking for now is whether to sow indoors or outdoors, planting depth, how long to emerge, because we're always, you know, you're watering and watering, you're wondering, when are these things ever going to pop up? Maybe my seeds were bad. Maybe you really go crazy and you dig them up to see if they sprouted, right? So, and then of course the final spacing or transplanting or thinning information, because sometimes you plant heavy and then you thin. I like to do that with greens because I eat the microgreens as we go. And then of course, how many days to harvest for either direct sow or transplanting. You want to pre-wet your plants, but not too much. They should be moist, not dry. You want to check the packet, the tag and whatnot for the plant spacings if you haven't already. This particularly applies if you're buying a tray, you know, of transplants at the nursery. Then you want to put it in the hole, and you kind of want to make sure it's level with the base of the plant. Okay, except for tomatoes. Pretty much everything else you're going to either plant level, or if you want to hill it, you could hill it. But tomatoes like to be planted deep, up to like the first set of leaves, and which is shocking to some people because you swear you're going to kill the thing, maybe. But anyway, also fertilizer at the time that you put your transplant in. You want to lightly tap the soil around each plant, give it a good drink of water, and then, you know, give it good water for a week, and then you're back down to your 2 or 3 times a week. Now, fertilizer. This fertilizer, which is pictured here, is the fertilizer that we're going to hand out at the pickup. It's the same fertilizer that our returning gardeners used last year. Things you need to know about fertilizer is that there are organic fertilizers, and then there are synthetic, or sometimes what we call conventional fertilizers. Pretty much every fertilizer out there is going to have 3 numbers on it, and these numbers all go in order: NPK, nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. Nitrogen is associated with leaf growth, phosphorus with root growth, and potassium is for fruiting bodies. The NPK represents the percentage, so 5% nitrogen, 4% phosphorus, and 3% potassium by weight is what 543 means if you see that on a bag of fertilizer. Soil tests, when you get soil testing, often come with a summary and a recommendation of fertilizers. And so if you get a recommendation to add 1 pound of nitrogen, then you will need to apply 20 pounds of 543. Now you're adding the 4 and the 3, so you do need to consider what those levels were before you necessarily just add it. And if you have a specific problem, you want to address that problem specifically. So an example would be if you only needed nitrogen, but not phosphorus and potassium, you're looking at alpha meal, blood meal, feather meal, fish meal, cottonseed meal. Whereas if it's phosphorus, you're looking at bone meal, rock phosphate, and for potassium sources, you're looking at green sand, sunflower hull ash. And there's others as well. The Harmony fertilizer that we're going to give out, now using that, if you look into it, I mean, you all have different types of gardens with different gardening goals. So some of this you'll have to figure out for yourself. And if you can't, you can talk to me about it and we'll try to figure it out together. But 6 to 8 pounds per 100 square feet breaks all the way down. You do all that, you crunch all those numbers, and you're looking at about 2 tablespoons per square foot. That's why we say when you plant your plant, do 1 to 2 tablespoons. You could do 1 to 2, and then typically you want to re-fertilize about 6 weeks later. If you scatter the fertilizer all over your garden, you'll just be feeding the weeds, and the wind will break it down as well. And you want to put it directly in the planting hole, or if you're planting in a trench, you could side dress with a side trench close to it, you know, before roots set or anything, it'll be safe. And you can put your fertilizer in a side trench. All right. We're moving on to talking about preventing weeds with mulch. Now, once you have established your footpaths in your rows and you've got things planted and they start to grow, well, weeds are going to start growing too. Day one, the day you tilled, the weeds were like growing, okay? And the grass too. The single best thing you can do, and I cannot emphasize this enough, is to mulch up front. You could even mulch before you plant. If you're doing transplants, like your tomatoes, you can go ahead and mulch that area right now. And just, you know, you'll mark out where your plants are going to go. You'll just pull the mulch back, plant there, and then tidy up the mulch back around the plant. Why? Why am I so crazy about mulch? Well, it blocks light from the soil surface and prevents weeds from germinating, which means they don't grow in the first place. Okay. You do not have to pull a weed that doesn't grow in the first place. Especially if you do a raised bed gardening or straw bale gardening, you can, and especially if you have to haul water. If you ever worked with a garden where you have to haul water and haul a lot of water, which is what I'm doing right now, you will notice immediately how much water is conserved from mulching. The difference between a mulched garden and a bare earth garden is unbelievable with just how much water evaporates. Prevents soil-borne diseases from spreading. You know, the rain doesn't splash mud everywhere. Helps deter some pests and provides a habitat for predatory beetles and spiders. These are beneficial insects, our friends. It decays and eventually ends up in your soil, adding organic matter. Now, mulch materials, good old-fashioned straw, shredded leaves, grass clippings, shredded paper, other organic wastes like our beloved cardboard. Love it. Bark or wood chips that have been composted for at least 1 year. Now, you do need to be caveat here with cardboard is that rain doesn't go through it. So you can't just cut a hole in cardboard and grow in it. Some of the agri-fabrics have, you know, the water will get through, and so that's not necessarily an issue. But if you're using cardboard, you would have to shred it so that the water goes through. When you mulch, you're looking for around 6 inches of material when you first put it down. It's gonna shrink. 6 inches of material when you start out, it's gonna be like 2 inches in a week and 1 inch in a couple weeks. You can go ahead and spread the mulch out, then you plant directly into it. If you are direct seeding, you could mulch now and then pull back your trench. And then once the plants are 6 inches tall, tidy the mulch back up to the plant, or just wait until they're that tall and then mulch. Any weeds that pop up, and if you use straw, you'll have grasses that start to pop up, but oat grass, wheatgrass, these things, I'm sorry, oat grass, why did I say that? Wheatgrass, and ryegrass is nothing like yard grass, turf grass. It pulls out so easily. A lot of times you can get under the mulch with a pitchfork and just pull it up, and the grass will slip through it, and you just set it right back down. So you're just lifting up a little bit, and it smothers the grass right underneath it. And, you know, you put a little bit of time into it, you'll start to see results. Then when you see out in a garden or in a field, you'll see these long rows of black fabric. Most often it's this type of agrofabric, and it's made from woven polypropylene and partially water permanent. And this, is black. It cuts out the light, keeps so much area from growing weeds. And you actually burn the holes in them instead of cutting them, because that keeps it from fraying from that point. It what would you call that? Cauterizes the hole somehow. And there is a certain expense with this. There's an expense with everything. Yard leaves are free, usually. You save them on here. Still, get them from your neighbors. They'll let you have them. Cardboard's free. There is a cost with this, but it lasts like 3 to 5 years, depending on how you take care of it. And I'm very, very curious about doing this. I know Bill and Paula are giving it a shot, and they're going to be teaching us about that more later. Let's take a look at some pictures. These are our pictures. We got, let's see, this is a Schubert family, and this is just a back shot, and you can see here's a path down the middle. There's cardboard. Here's cardboard in here. And there's a lot of mulching in here. And what do you not see? You don't see any real tall weeds. Here's from the side. Look at this. This is a picture of a harvest that Jessica had. And if you look in between, there's so much area here that doesn't have weeds. This little bit here, if you added up all the square feet here, how long would it take you to weed this? I bet less than a minute yanking that out by hand if you did it. Anyway, moving on. Same thing. Look at all this space. There's no weeds. Here looks like some clover growing over here, which I wouldn't even pull. Nice. Cheryl's garden, very organized. You can see in the distance here, she's got on the very far row, she's already got her mulch down. I don't know if her tomatoes are planted yet or not, but she's got her mulch down and her T-post in. I think at this point, maybe not. I don't know. But anyway, all of this could have been done up front. You could be doing this right now, wherever you're going to grow tomatoes. Again, we're up close. Interesting thing here, there's 3 mulching methods being used at the same time here. You got straw, you got cardboard, you got agrofabric. I'm going to show you some pictures of Cheryl's garden. Don't look at the vegetables. Look at the ground around and notice how clean it is. Here's a raised bed. Look how clean that is and organized. Here's Tracy's garden. We've got 2 things going on here. We've got cardboard in our row, and then look, it switches over to straw. Come up, we got more straw. Look, there's some cardboard beyond. Several things happening here. Okay, now we're moving on to trellises and vertical gardening. If you look at something like cucumber, you'll notice that they can be planted like 12 inches apart. but then you look and the row says 72 inches row distance, right? So they take up a lot of space. And so you could have a large dedicated area for a cucumber plant on the ground. Another solution is to grow up. Trellising is a form of vertical gardening that lets you maximize your garden space by taking sprawling vine plants off the ground. Tomatoes, cucumbers, small melons, squash, pole beans can all be grown and benefit from trellising. It also gets it off the ground so bugs, aren't boom, just right there. Trellising needs to be installed before or at the same time that you're planting. T-posts, first-time gardeners, first-time grow Morristown gardeners. I'm giving you 10 T-posts to get you started, as well as a bunch of this white trellis net. Okay, and so part of what we need to talk about when we get done here is how many feet y'all think you each need of this trellis material so that I can cut it when we do our pass out. For cucumbers, melon, squash, and pole beans, you need to install the T-posts at the end of the row and then space them equally in between, roughly every 5 to 8 feet. For tomatoes, you just install T-posts at the end of the row and then about every 5 feet or so. And we'll talk more about what you do with the tomatoes, but you don't use the trellis net for the tomatoes. This is just for everything else. Everything else, trellis net. Tomatoes, we're going to do, or we're going to talk about Florida weed. You're welcome to use baskets if you want to. I'm just going to skim over this because there's actually some very good YouTube videos on this subject that I'll send out, and I would advise you to watch that if you're going to do the Florida weave on your tomatoes. Now, basically, you wrap twine in and out of your tomato plants, and you just go up. You start when they're about 12 inches tall, in and out, and for every 6 inches or so of growth, you add another layer. This illustration shows 2 layers, and you just keep that twine as tight as possible. If you've ever seen tomatoes growing indoor commercially, this is how it's done, and it's because it's compared to buying cages and all of that, this is relatively cheap and fast. All right. Water and irrigation. You need to think about it before you even start gardening. Plants need about 1 inch of water per week and an extra inch for every day above 90 degrees. 1 inch of water equals 0.66 gallons per square foot. So for a 500 square foot garden, that equals 330 gallons of water every week. You don't want to do this with a bucket. Trust me. Mulching helps. Cut that down a good bit. Some water will come from the sky, thankfully. You need a rain gauge so that you can have an idea. I mean, that's a lot of water we're talking about. It's nice to be able to look out and see an inch in the rain gauge and mark some things off your to-do list for the week, but you can also track precipitation totals online. This is a good link here. This is an example of kind of what's on that website. I need to, let me go back here. Oh, this is for Johnson City. We need to dial up Morristown. Anyway, we'll send that out. And I like this because you can look back as you go. If you're watering by hand, it can be a good idea to calibrate because we all got different water pressure and different nozzles and things like that. It can be a good idea to kind of train yourself to calibrate your mind to how much water is coming out of your water hose. And you can do this by timing, counting, count your breaths and see how long it takes to fill up a gallon bucket. You definitely want to use the shower setting and not the jet spray. Water the roots, not the leaves. Water early morning so the plants can dry off before evening. If you do use overhead irrigation, rotating sprinklers or tripods can be purchased pretty cheaply. Considering how much coverage you can get, it's best to combine this with a rain gauge though, so that you actually know how much you're putting on. You want to run it for 1 or 2 hours, depending on what your rain gauge tells you, 2-3 times a week. Again, better in the morning, before 10 a.m. is the best. And you can, if that is tough for you, or one cool thing is you can put this on a timer and automate that system to make sure it gets done and done easier. Now, the most efficient way to water, but it's also the most expensive way, is drip irrigation. And it will cost you some money, but if you take care of your equipment, it can last a while. The drip tape does need to be replaced every 1 to 3 years. But all the fittings and everything like that should last 5 or more years. It waters the roots directly. It doesn't water the leaves. So, you know, one drawback to overhead watering is that things like tomatoes that often are susceptible to fungus and mold in this area, if you can water directly at the root, you can cut out a lot of that, and you only have wet leaves when it rains from the sky. So, and then this last sentence here, you know, that's going to depend on your system. So it is best paired with an auto timer, and on average, you're going to get, you know, an inch per hour. 1 hour every day to get an inch a week. Watering deeply 2 to 3 times a week is better than watering a little bit every day. But if it's over 90 degrees and your plants are drooping, you can give them a drink. Thick mulch helps conserve water. Watering early in the morning is best, and water the roots, not leaves. That's like, burn that into your memory. That's the gist of watering that you need to know for the rest of your gardening career. And, oh, there's on it. This is it. That's it. That's the end of that presentation. And now we're going to move on. We're going to take a quick minute to catch up, and then how do I, there. We're going to take a quick minute to catch up and take questions, and then we're going to move on. All right, guys, you got questions?
Well, this is probably the dumb question of the night.
Okay.
But I have little seedlings and they're adorable. And some of them are getting really big. But it says on the packet not to put them outside yet. What do I do with these babies?
Are they're outgrowing their container?
Yes.
Oh. How long do you have till you're you can put them in the ground and then put frost cloth on top of them if it gets too cold. That's one thing you could do.
Okay, thanks.
So the other thing is learn, or the lesson we could all take from this is that you have to count backwards when you're doing your transplants. I've done it too, and yeah. So, but you can take a chance on putting them in the ground and see how the weather goes. If you need some frost cloth, I would typically give that out at the end of the year, but I would be glad to give you some now. I'd be glad to go ahead and give it to you now, if that would help you. Who else? Anybody?
I got a question for you.
Okay.
So I went to Bobby Chambers the other day, and I got me some of those Empire red tomato plants.
Hmm.
Keep them up. They're growing very quickly, but I've never seen a tomato plant bloom so quickly. Like they're still babies, and I can see itty bitty blooms that are about to bloom. So, is it not too soon to put these in the ground right now? I've had the rest of them I transplanted and put it in a pot, and I've been bringing it in and out, but I'm just shocked to see those little babies already so early.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I would be curious to know if it was an early variety. You know, it may
Okay.
be grown. Where did you buy it?
Bobby Chambers, his farm out in, man, he's out in Timbuktu. I don't even know where it was out all the way out there, but it's his farm out there, Bobby Chambers.
Ooh, I'd like to know where he is. You know what? He could be selling that to people to grow
Well, he said that he had
indoors or with the assumption that you might have to cover it. If you were a market gardener trying to get tomatoes to the farmer's market, you want to be the first one with tomatoes, right? So you might take a gamble and go ahead and plant if you have the ability to cover and protect. There's no reason
like
you
a,
couldn't plant tomatoes right now if you
like
can
with a
cover
piece
and
of
protect.
plastic. Like, what do you cover them with? Plastic pillowcases? What, I mean, what do you cover it
Cross
with?
cloth. I have a supply of Agribon 19. It's frost cloth, but it's really heavy duty frost cloth. It's better than what you can buy. And so I could give you some of that.
Okay, cool. That's the only question I have, and I'll send you a couple pictures.
You can
or
put them in the
something.
ground, but hey, look, if it goes to 10 degrees tomorrow, you're gonna have to come get this stuff immediately, you know? So
That's what I'm worried
yeah.
about. We live in Tennessee. There's, they're
No, there's
bipolar.
no reason. I mean, you can start planting anything you want right now, but you're gonna have to protect it, you know? So
Cool.
yeah. All right. Anyone else? Okay. If you are very comfortable with calculating the seeds you need and filling out that plant seed calculator, you can take off. Because everything from here on out is about the plant seed calculator. So let me switch over. Let me switch back over. Now I'm a draftsman during the day. And it's just easy for me to work with AutoCAD. And so I wanted to talk to you before we start talking about the plant seed calculator. I want to take a split second to hit the idea of row spacing. Okay. And hopefully I won't make you dizzy by zooming around too much. I'll try not to. I know I go fast with this, but let's just look at a few examples. If I come over to my cheat sheet and I come to this warm seasoned vegetable table and I look at cucumbers, it tells me 12 inches apart, 72 inches apart on the row, 12 inches between each plant. Well, that tells me, yeah, I'm only planting one row in a bed for sure, and they need to be trellised. So if I go every 12 feet in this row here in a 10-foot row, that's 10 plants. If I decide to go, and that's really about all I can do with that. If I were going to grow it on the ground, then this row would need to be like 72 inches wide. And by the way, all of these examples that I'm about to show you are 10 feet long. So, it's different when it's 20 feet or 30 feet or 12 feet, you know, or it might be 4 feet. But so when we talk about a row foot, when it applies to this table here, because this table happens to be organized by 100 row feet, then that's what we're talking about. If it's seed packets or some other source of information, it might be different, but you're looking at 10 plants there. And if you are trellising, they need to be in a straight line. If you had a 3 foot wide row, it wouldn't make any difference because of that 72 inches. You would still have to trellis and grow up. Okay, summer squash, different example here. Now we've got 12 to 24 between each plant and 48 to 60 inches between each row. So we're only going to get one row in this 24-inch wide bed. But you know, obviously there's a big difference between if you planted, you know, if you only, I'm showing this example here just to show you, you could go wider. I mean, if you know how prolific squash plants are and you have a certain space for it, that's bigger than what you need, by all means, go a little bit wider. But here it is, this example here in the middle is every foot. So that's going to be 10. Now you could start getting tricky with it and do a staggered double row. Now, if you see, these are all, you know, a foot apart. And so you start getting a lot more into here. I would not suggest really doing this necessarily with summer squash. It's a bad example. I picked a bad crop to show this, but I do want to show you that there is such a thing as a staggered double row. This would be a little bit better for squash because of the space requirement. But again, I would not do this outside. Why? Because it rains a lot in Tennessee, and squash, you would probably be better off going with this example with fewer rather than more, because you would have more ventilation. But in theory, you could plant this tight, perhaps if you were in a low tunnel or a hoop house and you had drip irrigation and weren't doing overhead sprinklers on. In theory, you could plant this tight, but it is problematic outside in the ground. Pepper plants, similar design. Spinach, 3 to 4 inches between plants, 14 to 36 inches between rows. So in this case, we can get 2 rows out of it. So this is a 10-foot row, but if we're really talking about 20 feet of spinach here. So if we were going to look at this chart and we think how, you know, we're trying to figure out, well, what's our percentage of this 100-foot row? Well, we're actually double because we have 2 rows in here. If you have 36-inch wide rows, it opens up a whole nother realm of possibilities. There's so many possibilities that I don't really know when to cut it off talking about it. But it's something that you need to be aware of before you start tackling your seed calculator. Now let's move on to the seed calculator. I'm going to start from scratch here. We're just looking at google.com. I am logged into Google. And back when we did the binder review, where we went through the binder, I talked about technology, and I think I shared the link to a Google Drive folder, which is called Grow Morristown. And in the Grow Morristown folder are 2 other folders. One says binder. And this is everything that was contained in your binder, including the PDF copies of all your sheets. Now, in this folder, it is another folder called spreadsheets. And these are spreadsheets to all those forms. So I don't know, I like paper really, but I also have just in the last few years grown to prefer the spreadsheets. It just has a lot of advantages. So I've gotten better at doing this. So I would get these, if you're a spreadsheet kind of person, I would get this and take a look at it and do that. But so what I'm going to do is I'm in this folder, I'm going to make a copy, and let's give that a second. And I'm going to name this examples. So if you download this folder, you'll see you'll see what we're doing here today. If you want to look back at this, it's going to be in here. But I'm doing this on purpose to show you how I got to this file in our shared folder. So here we are, example plant seed calculator. There's already one example in here. Okay, all y'all that are struggling with this, throw something at me. Give me a name of vegetable, any vegetable. Let's just get started on. I don't know where to start. There's so many. Let's just start somewhere. Who's got one?
Cucumbers.
What kind? Are you planting? You just generic cucumbers, or do you have a specific seed packet?
No, I don't. Just for like slicing cucumbers.
Okay. All right. Well, then we're going to look at a general guide here. Let me do. What did you say, pickling or
Slicing.
okay?
Just like slicing cucumbers. Just to eat them. Just slice them up and eat them.
Okay. So let me go back to my spreadsheet. First thing. We're not gonna do a variety here. Now it says we can plant this May or June. Let's say we're gonna plant
May.
Saturday, May 22nd. Let's say we're gonna plant Saturday, May 22nd. Come back up. We need to know days to maturity, how many per 100-foot row. Quarter ounce seed, and it's 50 to 65 days. So we'll just say 60 days. So quarter ounce and 60 days. 60 days to maturity. The spreadsheet does the math for us. And then we need plants or seeds. We're going to put quarter ounce. How many row feet? How much space you got?
Well, my whole garden.
For cucumbers, just for cucumbers.
Okay. I have a lot of space for cucumbers. I can do a lot. So I don't really.
Do you want to do that many or do you not?
Well, I wouldn't mind having quite a few cucumbers because I could.
Well,
Give
you could grow slicing cucumbers, but then grow the pickling one. The pickle one, the canning cucumbers are shorter so that they fit in a jar.
Okay, I could do both.
I
Be
just
good.
right, but so when you sit down with your sheet, these are the kinds of things that it's sort of like it would not surprise me if you go through this process of filling out this plant seed calculator in your garden plan changes drastically because you start to really look into it.
Okay.
And it'll change your mind about things, or you'll think about things you didn't think of before. So, the thought that you might look at it and say, oh goodness, man, that's too many cucumbers. It doesn't surprise me, you know? Okay, so total row feet, I'm just, for an example here, I'm putting in 10 on that.
Okay.
And what are we doing here? Okay. So man, I apologize. This is confusing here. This
That's okay.
so this is two sets. So plants or seeds per 100 foot. It's just not really set up for ounces too good, is it?
No, I don't think so either.
Because really in my head, I would say, oh, okay, well, I have 10 row feet, so that's 10% of this number. So a quarter times 10% would be 1/4 times 10% is 0.025 ounces of cucumber seed, just for 10, which is probably, you know, now that I think about it, it's probably like 10 seeds.
Oh.
You know?
Yeah.
All right, let's
Okay.
move on. What's something else? Give me another one.
Reddish.
So I would override this since it doesn't really work with ounces. And I would put 1/4, oh Lord, 1/4 ounce. And this ends up being, I'm just gonna override it. And it may not even be available less than 1/4 ounce, but you know, at this point, we're gonna say, I don't know, 10 seeds. I'm gonna add 10%, which would actually be 1 seed. So maybe I'll just say 12 seeds. Okay, it does get to a point where you just gotta get close and move on. All right, I'm sorry. Tell me again, who's next? What do we got?
This is Enid. I said reddish.
Radishes? Okay.
Yeah.
I wonder if I have a seed pack here. I'd like to do this from a variety of sources. Oh, let's use Lexi's cheat sheet. Let's take a look at Lexi's cheat sheet. And just so that I demonstrate to you guys a few different sources. Okay, let me undo that. That's too much. Okay. Okay, radishes. Now this says 3 inches between plants, 6 inches between rows. This is an interesting column here because it can help you decide how much you need to grow for your family to eat, and how much extra you need to grow to can. All right, Enid, how much space you got? How much space are we talking about?
I'm not sure. I'm looking at it right now.
Okay.
I mean, it could be 1 row and that row be about 5 feet long.
1 row is how wide? One square foot?
Possibly, or even bigger than that.
Okay, well, now Enid has like raised bed gardens. And what are they? It's like 2 4x8 beds, something like that. So she's doing a little bit more of a square foot gardening approach. So we're definitely talking about only what, 1 foot wide by, what'd you say, 4 feet, 5 feet?
Yeah. It's
Okay.
about that.
So here's what I would do. I would open up my calculator. I'd say 5 feet is 12 inches. So 5 feet is 60 inches. Divided by Down here, it says radishes plant space is 3 inches. So divided by 3 inches is 20. There's 23-inch segments in 5 feet, 60 sticks, 60 inches. Okay.
Yeah,
So,
that seems about right, visualizing the box.
huh? Does that seem about right?
Yeah, visualizing the box, that's about the amount of space there.
Yeah, yeah. So now this says you can go 6 inches apart. So you could put 2 rows, split that down the middle of that open foot space that you have, since you're doing square foot gardening, and run 2 rows there. So technically, instead of 5 feet, you've got 10 row feet. Okay. Instead of 5 feet, you have 10 row feet, because you're putting 2 rows in that space. So let's look at the other chart and see how close we are between the two. But if you're using this chart, you're going to say 20, we're going to double that for 2 rows. You're going to say 40 something seeds. If you're ordering seeds off of, Johnny's Seeds or one of these online seed places, oftentimes they'll tell you about how many seeds are in an ounce or how many seeds are in a pack. Some heirloom varieties of cucumbers and things like that, there's only a few seeds in the pack, and because it's a quarter of an ounce or whatever, and you get it in gigantic seeds, and there's like 3 magic beans. It's like you paid $5 for the 3 magic beans, and God, you hope they all germinate, and anyway.
Where did you get the worksheet you're looking at right now that has how many plants per person?
It's in the cheat sheet, which is in the last email.
Okay.
It's been in a couple emails, but use the last one because I've added to it,
Okay.
so that it's just the things that you need are just right there for you. And if I add to it some more, I'll send it out again,
Okay.
so that
thanks.
we've all got the same. I need to add some, look, all right. The struggle's real on some of this, okay? The fractions and ratios and some of the as simple as they are, the algebraic equations that are required in gardening
Yeah.
will jog the hell out of your mind at times, right? And
I can't
so
do that, man. Sorry. It's not available in my brain to do that.
yeah.
This-
So
Yeah,
we-
fifth math, and I'm out.
we may have to do, so it's okay. It's okay. All right. Deep breath. If we need to do some basic math refresher work some other time or
You lost
something
your mind.
like that, we can do that, because everybody benefits from time to time. Like multiplying and dividing fractions and things like that. It's like,
Yeah.
That happened.
yeah.
Yeah, I homeschool grader. I all that.
It comes up. It comes up in gardening. All that stuff in school that you thought you would never use, you're about to use it. So that's how that goes. We need to keep going. You guys getting more and more comfortable? You got more? We got
I think-
other who's got something bugging them you can't figure out? Y'all are fast. You're catching on fast. Anybody?
Us.
What you got?
Okay, so someone may have asked about this earlier, and it was about having seeds that are already growing, but they're outgrowing like their little pods. And I don't feel confident enough to put them out there in the boxes yet. So what we're doing is that we're replanting them individually into other containers for the meanwhile. So is that okay?
Oh my
Or
gosh,
is there
yeah.
other
Okay,
solutions?
I'm glad you said that, because now I'm like, duh. You can't, it's very, very common to pot up. So, you know, you might start out in a 72 cell tray and then pot up to 4 inches or even 6. Nurseries do it all the time. You know, when you're buying a 6-inch pot from the nursery, it didn't start there. You know, so
Okay, that's what I wanted to make sure of, because I don't think we're ready to put them out there. And last year they kind of died off, so.
yeah. So wait, who did I tell to throw their stuff in the ground riskily? Candy, ignore me. Okay, look, throw your stuff in the ground if you want to. I might, honestly, but you can also pot up. Okay.
That's what I was thinking, because then I can just bring it in. I lost a little bit of basil last night. I forgot to bring it in, some sweet basil, but all my aloes and everything seemed to do okay. So that's pretty much, I did a horrible thing last year. I used fish fertilizer. And it was like the stinkiest smelling everything, but everything I've potted with that soil has just exploded. But like it did in my kitchen, like I set it down and I didn't have the lid on, and one day it literally, there was fish shit all over my, all
It just
over.
exploded, literally
Yeah.
exploded.
Yeah, so I don't think we're going to be doing that this year. But it grew really well.
It grew really well.
Quickly, very quickly. Like I had mums. When did we have mums? I've got pictures. I had mums late December or
Yeah.
early January.
And they sprouted up in like
Yep.
that first month they got really, really big, and then they just continued to get even bigger. And whenever it got too cold, they ended up dying. But they
We still had
even
some.
now the bottoms of them are starting to grow back. And we have a big bucket of that soil that had a lot of that fish fertilizer in it. That's still in it. We're probably gonna put that in the garden.
Yeah, don't waste it.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
I have fish fertilizer available to people who want to try it. We gave a lot of it out last year, and a lot of people, they used it one time. What's that?
We have a question.
Okay,
Does
yeah,
the
let
fish
me.
fertilizer stink?
Does fish
We don't want
fertilizer
any
stink?
stinkiness. No stinkiness, please.
You know what it smells like? It smells like success. It smells like garden
That means it's gonna smell
success.
bad.
But your neighbors can't stand it, man. Shoot, you can smell it 2 miles down the road. Oh God.
Yeah. But anyway, we handed a lot of it out last year, and people used it one time and never used it again. And it's very expensive. It's very expensive, and but it is an awful smell. And if you get it on your hands, as I did when we were trying to divide it all up, you're gonna smell like you've been on a really good fishing trip, for a couple of days. And so gloves, and you're fine. You will smell like you've been fishing though, if you get it on your hands. Okay, moving on. Anyone else? We're early. God, I'm getting good at this, y'all. Like it's 7 o'clock and I got the bonus material out of the way. So, but I'm here for 30 more minutes. Anybody got anything else?
Question.
Yeah.
And can we order like she was talking about basil? Can we do herbs when we do our seed calculations, or?
Okay. Yeah, good question. Really good question. Put everything that you're going to grow on there. That's for you. That is for you. Now, I am going to look at the list, and I'm going to catalog what everybody is going to grow, and I'm going to go for the biggest hits. And I'm going to try to get that in bulk and quality and try to do that. I won't be able to do everything on your list. So if there's something you really want on there, you got to go on your own with that, right? But for the most part, I would love to give everybody everything. But so.
Okay. And when do we have to have what's the deadline for the calculations?
Well, get it back to me as soon as you can within the next week to week and a half.
Okay.
So maybe week from Wednesday would be good.
Oh, awesome.
For me to start putting that together.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
then I can.
All right.
Jason, are we supposed to email you our lists besides the pictures?
Yeah, yeah, please, yeah, do. I'm getting them off of Facebook and that works pretty good, but if you don't mind, just shoot it to me in email too.
And are we
Um,
supposed to stop by central service and pick up binders? I've just been printing it off of what you sent us.
yeah, I'm getting it together. I'm having a tough time. You know, we're getting it together, but it's probably gonna be within the next week or so. I need to, schedule that and have you come get your T-posts, your trellis material and all of that. So when you do your seed plant calculations, don't forget to consider succession planting. So if you're going to plant something 3-4 times, especially when you start getting into leafy greens and stuff like that, where you're going to plant multiple times over and over in the same space, don't forget to include that. You may only be planting 10 feet at a time, but really you're planting 50 feet over the course of a year, right? So go ahead. So don't forget your succession plantings, spring, spring and fall and all of that. This is for you. So, I mean, you can go ahead and start thinking about fall and get that on there. Let me know along with your seeds how much trellis net you need. And that can just be a lineal foot measurement. So if you have 10 feet of cucumbers, 20 feet of tomatoes, and 20 feet of beans, that's going to be 20 plus 20 plus 10. That's going to be 50 feet total. Add 5 feet to that. So tell me, Jason, I need 55 feet of trellis net. And I'll cut you 55 feet.
I've got a question.
Yeah.
I'm an owner at Hemp Haven. I've not grown it yet, but I deal with all kinds of farmers and things like that. Is hemp a part of this program? Is that a viable something we can do? Just wondering. I would like to see one grow that I've grown. Of course, I've gotten everything in my stores from Tennessee farmers, nothing else from anywhere else. But I would be a little bit interested to even put a couple seeds in the ground and see where that goes.
Can you grow hemp backyard in Tennessee?
Yeah, it's legal in all 50 states. The Farm Bill of 2018 is what made that legal. I can grow anything up to 3.5 foot is what I was told.
Look, what you grow is your business. I mean, it has nothing
Right.
to do with Grow Morristown. Grow Morristown will likely never purchase hemp seeds because
Sure.
it's not a food. Like
Gotcha.
I can't use any of my budgeted money for flowers, even though
Okay.
you should really plant 5% flowers in your garden, you know?
Okay.
I can't,
I just wondered.
can't,
I didn't know.
yeah, I can't spend money on flowers, but I would so be curious. I would love to see it grown. I visited a hemp farm, but I would love to see people, whatever, you know.
Okay. It's not a huge deal. It's just something, like I said, I own the shop. We do so much, and I would actually like to, maybe at Christmas I could put a big old hemp flower in my
Man,
and decorate it.
I'm absolutely convinced in the CBD cream. I mean, that stuff, I was the biggest skeptic. I mean, when that first came out, it's like they talked like it would fix every problem in the world, you know?
Right.
I was a big skeptic, but it will cure a headache. It'll,
There's all kinds of uses.
Yeah,
I've got
yeah.
everything from oils and tinctures to flour to edibles and stuff like that. But yeah, it's really changed my life. And now, I left the hospital, so now I can actually have time to even work in a garden.
Mhm.
And that's been a real big, I was so stoked when Bill called me. I was like, hell yeah, man, I want to do that. That sounds awesome. He might have to tow me a couple more rows.
Maybe. Well, we'll see. Yeah.
Awesome.
What you're wanting to go bigger now, right?
I better keep it under wraps.
Seeing all
Yeah.
those though.
Yeah, you can I mean, we can always add on later, you know. Or you can prepare for more space later throughout the year. There's things you can do. Anyway. Yeah, I owe you a lot of material. Oh yeah, everybody welcome Carla. She's coming in. We had a couple of people that were not able. They bowed out of the program because their life situations changed. And so Carla, thankfully, is stepping into one of those spots, and we're gonna have to get her caught up. So,
Do you have
but
any
anyway,
more?
welcome, Carla.
Thank you.
Are there any more spots available?
Maybe
'Cause I got a friend who would
you
like.
got someone.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right, I'll look into it and I'll get back to you.
cool.
It's been on my mind. I think we do, but I can't swear by that right now without looking into it. Katie,
Sure, yeah,
Katie's
Mhm.
friend. All right, I'll let you know.
thanks.
All right. Anything else? We all appreciate it. It's been a great one. And yeah, I'll let you know about the pickup. Get these seed lists back to me so I can try to figure out, what we're gonna buy as a program. And I'll see you on Facebook if you have any questions.
Hey, Jason.
Yeah, Bill.
Hey, when can we get the T-pole pounder?
You need one? You can go get it right now. It's in the hoop house, right
Okay.
inside the door. Just help
Okay,
us
so I'm
up.
not gonna do that. I got some food to drop off over there anyway, so I'll pick it up then.
Yeah, it's right there. Yeah.
Awesome, thank you.
Yep. All right, guys. I'll see you around.
See ya, bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.